Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Realty Rundown with the Nic Wyse Team. I am Nic Wyse, and with me, as always, is Brianna Gilbert and Nathan Schwartz. We're going to do something a little different this week. Instead of going with such a standard topic of conversation, we wanted to just kind of throw a couple questions out at each other and see what responses we get. We thought it'd be fun and yet should be informative as well. I did want to start it out a little lighthearted, but first I'll let you guys say hello.
Hey guys.
Hi.
So the first question that I thought was kind of fun and funny, and we can just start with this one, was what is something weird that has happened to you guys on a showing? And I know you both had a couple things. Brianna, obviously you haven't been doing this for 10 years plus like I have, but you've already had a couple weird things happen.
Yeah, so I have gone on a showing for an investment property like a duplex, and when we walked in the door, there were tenants sleeping in the living room, and we had to keep the lights off because they were sleeping. So we didn't want to disturb them, but that was definitely pretty awkward to walk past.
Agreed. Oh man. Yeah, for hours, Nick and I had a market analysis that we were doing for a buddy of mine at their, I think it was a lake house, right, Nick?
Yeah. Yep.
And the gal was deathly afraid of snakes, which, I mean, I don't like him. Nick seems to maybe not be, he maybe likes him a little bit. I don't understand it, but I guess a little bit.
I like all animals.
But yeah, so she found this snake. I think what was it? But I think near the fire pit or under a bench or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we ended up having to kill a snake for this girl. So I guess we're a full service broker, which is not all that bad. But yeah, pretty interesting.
Right. We'll do it all. Pest extermination, everything. Yeah, that was hilarious. I think we were down like by the waterfront, and all of a sudden she wasn't with us anymore.
Oh, that's right. She ran like 20 feet away and just was like standing by the water.
And just like froze and like was like snake.
Yep.
Do you remember how big that snake was? It was like a poor 1 foot Gartner snake.
Yeah, it wasn't that big.
But she was terrified. We took care of the problem.
That's right.
Well, I have also had some where people were sleeping. I had one where it was like a teenage daughter that the parents had never let know. So we opened the doors. I mean, we were in the house for 15 minutes. Opened the door to the bedroom and like, oh, sorry. But the best one was there was one, and this is when I was really early on in my career, and opened the door, and there's this massive guy sleeping on the bed. And I'd like turn to my clients, and they've got wide eyes. I was like, let's go.
Yeah.
Get out of here. And like he never woke up. As far as I know, he never knew we were there. But I was like, this is the kind of individual you don't want chasing you down a hallway.
For real. Yeah, but it could put you in a dangerous situation, like if they think you're an intruder or something. I mean, you never know.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Somebody wakes up from their deep sleep, and there's people traipsing through their house. It's not going to go well no matter what.
Yeah.
And then not the only, I've had other weird ones too. We had one where it was closing day. We went for a final walkthrough, and they were still in there sleeping. Like, hadn't moved a thing. Like, hadn't moved a single thing out.
Oh, that spells out disaster.
But I was going to tell just the quick story of there was a place for sale in Jefferson Township, and it just had a creepy vibe to it right away. And it was like it had been abandoned for a long time. I was by myself doing like a video walkthrough for a client that was out of the area. And so I'm recording or whatever. And I go down in the basement of this house. And it was just the most nope basement ever. And I don't really get freaked out. I'm not a like ghost kind of a guy. But something bad happened in that basement at some point. And they're like, so how did it go in the showing? And I was like, I'm never going back there. If you guys want to buy that house, that's up to you. But I'm not in there, man. It was too much.
That reminds me. I had one like that. It was about a year ago. It was in South Bend. And like I get there and it was vacant and stuff. But like when I was in the house, I was like, I don't feel like I'm alone. I was like, this is weird. Yes. So my client shows up. It takes him like 2 minutes to walk through. And he's like, yeah, no thanks. I'm like, okay. I ran through that house, like turning off the lights, like running through the house as fast as I could. I was like, I don't like it in here. Yeah, exactly. I was like, I'm getting out of here.
Oh my gosh. It's amazing. Well, that one that I did it on, it sold then. They came way down in price. It sold. It went back on the market like 3 months later. And I'm like, okay, it wasn't just me, somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, nope, we made a terrible mistake. Get us out of this house.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right. On a little more serious note, Brand, I thought you asked, you guys both asked awesome questions. I don't know if we'll be able to get through them all because we're already 5 minutes in. We've only done one, but she asked a really good question about how accurate online home valuation tools are. I don't want to name
Yeah.
names, but people definitely, there's some that people will refer to a lot, and their accuracy. And just from my personal experience, sometimes they're spot on. Sometimes I get done with my market analysis and I'm like, oh, they nailed it. But I have had other ones. And my favorite story about this is this was years ago when you could still get a house for this price in Middlebury. But we closed on this property. It had been on the market for 3 months. We closed on it at $145,000. The people that bought it called me the next day and they're like, hey, we got on this website and it says the value of our home is $250,000. We'd like to list at $250,000 and make we're gonna make $100,000 a day. Yeah, you can't always trust computer algorithms. That was the best case point that I've ever seen. I don't know if you guys have had that experience yet either, but it's
So we had one recently, Nick. I don't know if you remember, but back in November, where I think so the one we were using, bases it off of county records most of the time, but it was showing, like a value of like 180,000, but it was showing that it had no bedrooms, even though it had 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. So it ended up selling for over 200, but yeah, so you can't always trust them. Sometimes, yeah, they're dead on, but sometimes they're way off.
Yep. I'd say
Right.
stick with the pros.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and I feel like even if you do updates or if you don't do updates, Zillow doesn't know what you've done to the home. Oh, certain websites don't know what you've done to the home.
That's just it. No, I think you're fine. I mean, everybody knows. But at the same time, it's one of those things where they're basically using, computer algorithms that are just looking at square footage. They're trying to get better about this and trying to use AI actually. And there's some companies that are leading the edge of this, and it's not them, that are doing then looking at pictures. Once a property is listed, they'll look at the pictures and kind of compute from there and say, oh, well, that's granite or that's this, and therefore the value should be this. But by no means are we there yet with technology. The best way to do it is to get yourself a professional market analysis. Appraisers are great too. They're more expensive. In fact, as you guys know, if we're going to list a house with us, we're going to do that market analysis for free. So right. There's just a tremendous amount of value in doing that. And again, appraisers are really good at what they're doing, but I think there's just that slightest difference where we're really thinking about what the market will pay, as opposed to like, here's the dimensions of the home and therefore bleh. So again, I think when you're looking for that appropriate value, get a realtor, call us, or call your favorite real estate agent and get that appropriate CMA done for you. The question, Nate, I think you had a good one too. That's really relevant right now. We're seeing it all the time. As a home buyer, you get the question constantly asked you, should I wait to buy a home because what interest rates are right now? Go ahead and tell me you guys' thoughts if you want, or I can give you mine.
Yeah, I would say, in a way, you're kind of timing the market. And if I invest in real estate or the stock market, I don't try to time the market. You just invest consistently and over time it'll grow. But that would be my same advice here is don't time the market on interest rates. If you're ready to buy, so if you have a down payment, you're pre-approved, go buy the house if you like it. Because, if you wait in a year, interest rates might be lower, but real estate appreciates about 3% a year. So in a year, that same house that you want to go buy might be more expensive. And so really you haven't really gained anything. So you may as well go buy and refinance later.
Right. Yeah, I've heard marry the home and date the rate. So you can always refinance down the road, and you don't want to miss out on your dream home just because rates are higher.
Yeah, and there is no guarantee that rates are going to go down. As we've seen, over the last half of the year here, they've actually gone up. And based off the Fed's comments, doesn't look like they're going to lower the prime anytime soon. So I would say, just like you guys have both mentioned, if you find the home that you want to be in, go ahead and buy. If rates do go down, you can refinance. Get yourself that lower rate. It's not terribly expensive to refi. That's always an option that's available to you. I'll give a quick story of he's a good dear friend of mine who unfortunately went through a divorce. It's been like 10 years, I think now. My goodness, I think it has been that long. It's crazy. But he did not want to buy after they sold their house. They, divorced, sold their house, got their money and went on their ways. And he said, oh, the market's too high and blah, 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 and all these reasons. That was 10 years ago, guys. If he would have just bought a house. Back then, again, you could buy a house for $140,000. That's what he had kind of been looking at. Those houses that he could have bought for 140 are now selling for 280.
Yeah.
250, 280. So yeah, it's, guys, I say it all the time, and I'm sure I'll say it again. Go open your front door, look outside. Do you live in America? Then it's a good time to buy a house, guys. As Nate mentioned, they continually go up. Annually, it averages around 3%. Over the last several years, it's been closer to 6%. In some areas, even higher. So, don't miss out on a good opportunity to create wealth for yourself by home ownership. And I'm going to bounce back to one that I kind of had for you guys, and that kind of correlates with that. Is there ever a good time to rent? As we just talked about, hey, it's time to buy. It's always time to buy. In my opinion, there are some times when it's okay to rent. If you're going to be somewhere for a short period of time, like you've taken a job, you're temporarily here for a year or 6 months. Yeah, it probably doesn't make a lot of sense to buy at that situation, because you do have costs associated with not only selling, but with buying as well. Your mortgage origination fees and all those other costs associated. So if you're going to be there really, for less than 3 years, it may be okay to rent. As we've seen over the market over the last few years, it might still be a really good idea to buy if you're there for a couple of years. But if you're going to be somewhere and you're positive and it's going to be short term, it's probably okay to rent. Otherwise, I am the strongest opponent. I think you guys will be too. You buy a home, you create wealth that way. You roll that into your next home. You use that equity to purchase your next home. That's how you keep getting a bigger, better house until you get to the end. And then you start getting smaller houses or condos, and you keep that equity. That's your savings. That's your biggest nest egg that you're going to have when you move to retirement.
Yep. My wife and I personally, like last year, we sold our house spring of last year, and then we ended up renting for about 5 or 6 months until we actually found a house that we really liked. And so in a case like that, yeah, I think it's okay. What you want to be careful though of is that it's, this thing like, oh, we're just going to rent short term, and then before you know it, boom, you've been renting for 2 or 2.5 years and you still haven't bought a home. But in a situation like that, I think it's okay. You just have to kind of keep a check on yourself and keep yourself accountable.
Yeah. I feel like maybe also if you don't have much saved back in reserves for if you did need to replace a roof or replace any major things that a landlord would do for you, if you don't have that money saved up, it might be better to rent just in case anything did happen.
Yep.
I think I saw the number just the other day. If someone were to save $25 a week, and hey, saving money can be hard. I totally understand that. But if you were able to save $25 a week, by the end of 1 year, you would have basically accumulated $10,000.
Yeah.
And that is then your amount. Obviously that could be a down payment. But there are loan programs out there in rural areas where you can get a 0 down loan, or you can get a 3% down conventional loan, and still have some money left over to the side for that roof or for those eventualities of things that can go wrong when you're a homeowner. So
yeah.
Don't wait too long. You don't need to wait 5 years. You just need to make those small sacrifices. I'm going to get grief from somebody out there, but maybe avoid the extra coffee at the Starbucks or something like that. We all want to treat ourselves all the time, and it's this instant gratification culture that we live in. But I can tell you, and you guys are experiencing this too, and Brianna, obviously, you're in motion for this as well. There is seldom things that are more gratifying than having that sale. When you sell your first home and they hand you this check and you're like, wow, all I did was live here, and maybe you made some improvements, of course, but all I did was live here, and now I'm worth this much. And as opposed to having rented all that period of time and having nothing.
Right.
So it's huge numbers when people get to the end of the road. Like I said, when they go to retire, I think the average homeowner is worth almost $400,000, and the average renter usually has savings of about $5,000. So
yeah, I know there's a statistic out there. I don't know specifically the actual stat, but I think it's like somewhere in the ballpark of like between a renter and a homeowner. I think homeowners have like a net worth like 5 to 10 times higher than your average renter. So
I think it's higher than that.
Yeah, and it could be. Yeah.
So hey, everybody's not always in a position to do it immediately, but start building for that process. That's the key, I think, right there.
Yep.
Nathan, you asked another really good one that I wanted to get to and make sure we didn't forget. But you mentioned a question that you get from buyers sometimes is, should I purchase title insurance when buying a home? And I know you've both done a tremendous job of this as newer agents. getting to know title companies, getting to know their process and what the value is of title insurance. So if you guys want to speak to that, please.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, highly recommend it. I mean, I don't know I think the cost can differ. I think depending on the price of the home. Am I wrong in that, or is it usually about the same? But it's not terribly expensive. I mean, I think you're talking like $1,000 or something, maybe not even that much. But highly recommend it. I mean, it's worth every dollar because the title company is basically saying, hey, we're going to ensure that the title we're giving you or the deed we're giving you at closing is free and clear of any liens or judgments, any mortgages or anything like that. So, in the future, if a creditor comes after you for, there's a $30,000 lien on the house. Well, if the title company didn't catch that, the title company is going to pay that for you. Rather, if you didn't have the title insurance, you're out of luck. You're going to pay it yourself. So highly recommend it. It's going to save you a lot of heartache.
Right. Yeah, you pretty much said it all. I'd say it's not a bad idea to get title insurance. I definitely do it.
Yeah. I mean, I've sold hundreds of homes and I've only had a couple of times where the buyer said, nope, we're good. We don't need the title insurance.
Really?
Yeah, they weren't my buyers. But yeah, I'm like, okay, like you said, it could be terrible. It could be catastrophic. It could be there was a defect sometime down the line, and people that sold you the home never owned it legally.
Yep. Yeah.
And boom, you just lost your home because you don't have any title insurance on it.
Right. Or, I've also heard stories of like there was, someone was selling a piece of real estate. There was another owner that you were never told about. So that owner comes out of the woodworks.
Did we lose Nate?
And can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Nick's frozen for me.
He's frozen for me. Oh boy.
There we go.
I think
it was real quick, and I think we're back.
Okay.
All right.
Good. Hey, it didn't stop recording. Yay.
Perfect.
Figuring out technology. But Nate, you were starting to tell a story there.
Yeah. So, I heard another case where like someone was selling a piece of property and then, the buyer had no idea that there was another owner of the property states away, and they came back years later for their half of the equity. So in a case like that, that's also going to protect you. So it's worth every dollar.
Yep. And there is no hard and fast thing that says the seller pays for title insurance, but as you guys know, by and large, they do. Every once in a while, we'll see a buyer try and sweeten their offer by saying, we'll also take care of the title insurance. Because they still see the value in it, even when they have to pay it themselves. But usually that's just something the seller kind of expects to pay and say, hey, we will furnish you with this clean title insurance policy so you own this home free and clear. And any liens are going to be on the title company if they didn't discover them.
Yep.
We're pushing pretty close to 20 minutes. I think I wanted to get through one more here. So, Brandon, you had asked a good question, too, about how does someone know that they're ready to buy a home? Kind of goes back to what we talked about a little bit earlier. But, have you seen some people asking that question, and what are your thoughts on that?
I feel like as long as you feel like you're ready and you have enough saved for a down payment and any extra hidden costs, and definitely talk with a lender to see where you're at on that process and if you can get pre-approved. But I feel like as long as you feel like you're ready and you have enough saved up, you should be ready.
Yeah, I would agree.
I really like what you said about go ahead and talk to a lender and get pre-approved. There's no harm in doing that, right? You go talk to a lender and they say, hey, well, you could actually buy a home for X amount of dollars. This is what your payments could be. And oftentimes it's less than rent. So why not? In that regard, why not? There's a lot of life factors that affect that as well. As far as, am I ready to buy a home? Well, maybe you just got married or you just had a baby or on the other side of things, maybe the kids have moved out and it's time to do something different. But usually there's some kind of factor that affects you. Says, okay, I've just got a new job. I'm making more money. It's time to buy a house. But it really comes down to preparedness. And again, I think if you go and talk to a lender and say, hey, I'm interested in this, I'm just thinking about it. There's no harm in doing that. There's nothing that can really come back and bite you. When they do a soft pull on your credit, it's not going to hurt your credit. So it doesn't hurt. And that's the thing. Again, if you're even considering it, we've got a home buyer's guide. We'd love to send you. Just reach out to any one of us. We can get that emailed over to you. That'll kind of break down the process for you so you know what you're looking at. And then you start building that wealth, and it builds and it builds and it builds. So it's a wonderful thing, home ownership is, and I believe it's for everyone. And it's one of the parts. It's probably the biggest part of the American dream is owning your own home and owning your own real estate. So
I would agree.
Right.
Well, we're 4 seconds shy of 20 minutes here, so we probably better call it. We've got some other good questions, but we'll try and get to them at another time. And we're going to try and start taking some questions as well from our audience. So we're going to put a little poll out there. So be on the lookout for that. It'll be on Facebook. We may email some as well, but you can respond to that. If you have personal questions that you want to ask us, we can answer for you on air. So I think we're good. Until next time, I appreciate everybody tuning in to the Realty Rundown with the Nic Wyse team. Again, I'm Nic Wyse, joined as always by Nathan Schwartz and Brianna Gilbert. Until next time, we'll see you later, guys.
See you guys.
Bye.